It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is the Cosmick Voice. Cosmick Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmick Voice. This is Season 7, Episode 6. I am here with my co-host, Chris Natalini.
What up, what up, what up, everybody?
And I am Mick Michaels. Welcome back, everyone, to yet another show. Chris, how are you, sir?
I'm doing awesome. Mick, how are you?
I'm fantastic, awesome, and great, all wrapped up into one. It's like just a bundle of something.
Bundle of happiness.
Awesome-tasticness. Something.
I have to say, before we kind of get into things, I was a little irritated at you the other day. At the time of recording this, you had posted that, there's literally single digits weeks away to Christmas, and I was a little annoyed.
Well, listen, the year goes fast, man. That time of the season,
Bro,
it's quick upon us.
It's ridiculous, man, how quick this year has gone. Like, it's unbelievable how quick this has gone. Have you made any plans to head to Jersey to see the Spirit Christmas store?
I haven't, but I have talked to my wife about it, so we'll get there. We're actually starting to plan out, hey, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this. Right. But it's just been a lot of things going on. I mean, we had a lot of stuff for the band going on around Halloween, which we normally don't. We just had a resurgence of a song that prompted some last-minute merchandise creation, and which kind of just rolled right into the holidays. So I'm taking a deep breath. I don't even know where the summer went. I'm not even sure where this year went. I remember looking at saying, okay, well, we're going to cover this year, and here we are doing this. So
I know, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. I have to say, and I know I told you privately, but I will say publicly that your Halloweenish song, amazing. It came out so good. The comic looks amazing.
Well, thank you. And that's an older song. I mean, it came out. We released that song. We actually wrote the song in 2015, didn't release it until 2016 as part of our first compilation. It was just a bonus track. I've always liked when people do a compilation, but then there's a couple new songs on it. I really think that's kind of a cool thing. So that's what we did. And that was it. That was the end of it. We did a video for it. We shot a video. We released it. I think we only played it about 3-4 times live, tops, in those early couple years, and then that was it. We moved on, and then each year it kind of rolls around and people say something about it. But this year there was just a buzz which started from some guy in California. And the funny thing is over the years I had some computer glitches and some of my data had been lost or it had been stored some other place, and I couldn't find the original file. So last minute, I said, give me about 2 days, and I'll get you a new mix and all that kind of stuff. So we did, and then I sent it off to that station. They come back, and they go, you have any artwork for this? I go, artwork? I go, the song's 10 years old. I mean, who's thinking artwork? So, because I'm still trying to figure out this year. So when the artwork was being done, I started thinking, I go, I wonder here. It was supposed to be something real simple, and it got into something a little bit more complicated, but I'm really happy the way it worked out, which then turned into an extended Deep Cuts compilation of songs that we've never released. They've been out there. Some are available digitally, but they're the ones that never seem to get a lot of streams, because they're not the ones that are ever pushed. And then there's ones that released only on CD that, unless you bought the CD, you probably don't know what's out there. But it's really cool. There's 16 tunes on it, so thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah, it's really cool. And
so you and me seen it.
And the graphic of the character is so cool looking. He just looks amazing.
Yeah, I mean, again, it just fits the whole theme. It's the whole Jekyll and Hyde theme. So, I mean, we've been known for Christmas, Now I guess now each year we're going to have a little something that we can reissue.
Yeah, now you're taking over
Oh
2
my
holidays.
God. Yeah, now I just got to work in Easter and St. Patty's Day somehow.
And Thanksgiving. Don't forget
Yeah,
Turkey Day.
Thanksgiving. Well, yeah, I know. But unfortunately, our Christmas stuff is kind of like woven into Thanksgiving as well. Well, I look at
Well, that's
Thanksgiving.
true.
Thanksgiving to me is pre-Christmas anymore, right?
Of course, yes, of course.
So-
I agree with that.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff in-house, crazy stuff out of house, this industry.
It's Russ the Boss.
Take it down.
Johnny D from Britney Fox.
Stephen Piercy from Rat, the Rat Bastard. You're listening to the Cosmick Voice.
I wanted to bring up to you, we were talking about right before we went on air. I sent you some links over the last couple weeks. There are now officially AI exclusive record companies. They only accept and release AI generated music. It's crazy.
It doesn't make sense to me, bro. It
and
just doesn't
and hold
make
on,
sense to me.
Hold on. And I just sent you this last night or this morning, I can't remember, but tribute bands are now being signed to pretty well-known labels.
Yeah.
That I'm baffled at. I could see maybe the AI. It's no different than like maybe Muzak in your, hey, we just deal with elevator music. Get it. I totally get it. I get the AI thing. I'm not excited about it because it's going to put some people out of a job. And just like with the problem with Spotify during COVID, everybody with a keyboard became an artist and started releasing music.
Yeah.
You're going to have people who aren't necessarily musicians and or artists, but are computer literate and they really understand the software, and they generate these, from algorithms, they'll generate this type of music. That I'm a little bummed out about. But the tribute bands being signed, what are they going to release? Nothing but cover versions of a band that's already out there?
Dude, yeah. I mean,
I'm baffled by it. As an original artist, and I have released a couple cover songs, but I'm not a tribute band.
Right.
Listen,
right.
Every artist that's ever been out there has done a cover song, right? I'm Mickey come lately to the party. I'm finally, after, 40 years, getting on board with this. I'm a little thick, and I understand why people do it. I do. I've always understood why you do it. I just thought that it wasn't what I was supposed to do. Well, listen, I've been wrong. I've admitted that.
Here's the thing, Mick. We had talked about this before we started recording. If a tribute band gets signed to a label and they're not going to play the tribute band, whoever they represent, they're not going to play their songs. They're going to write originals. Well, in this case of this said tribute band that we're actually speaking about, their name is so close to the act that they portray. How does that work? You're now to a label. Now you're going to put out your original music. Well, do you keep your name? Because your name is so super close to the band that you were tributing. Do you have to change your name at that point? Like, I don't understand. Let's just say I'm in a Misfits tribute band and my Misfits tribute band name is the Misfits, but it's with 3 S's, let's just say. So then I get signed to a label and we're going to do original music. Are we going to be under the Misfits with 3 S's, or do I have to change my name completely? How does that work? If I was in the Misfits camp and there was a band out there doing originals with the name Misfits with 3 S's, I'd be like, no.
Right.
This
the
doesn't
logo,
work.
in this case, the logo is used in the same font style as the original. It's no different than like when you get a cease and desist because there's a similarity. My God, in the 70s and 80s, George Lucas sued more people for something that was even possibly familiar with Star Wars.
Even sound effects, right?
Right.
It
it was
lightsaber and gunshots, stuff like that.
Tons of stuff. Coca-Cola has, any major company that has a brand, a look, a logo, a trademark, they're on top of it. Gene Simmons gave King Diamond a cease and desist of the makeup.
Yeah.
And they weren't even similar. Yeah, there's a vein of it, but at the same time, it was a unique design. So
yeah,
I'm having a hard time with that because we just can't, as regular artists, we can't just release a cover song without a mechanical license and without this and that. A mechanical if we're going to actually put it to CD. There's a fine line between you doing a cover song and putting it out on YouTube just to showcase your talents, but you immediately get a copyright infringement. But what YouTube does now is, instead of cutting your video, right, taking it off, though they have the right to, you won't get a strike that will lead to your shutdown unless you do something that goes against their standards. But what they do is they just take away your opportunity to make revenue on that particular video.
Right.
But it says copyright infringement or copyright something. I forget what it is. But that's what happens. So there is a fine line. And at one time it was like they didn't want you to do it. You couldn't do it. The problem is everybody's doing it. And they tell you, industry experts, right, like us, we're experts. They tell you, do a cover song, do several cover songs, put them out there, showcase your talent. Hopefully it goes viral. Like that band, I Prevail. I mean, this is a number of years ago, but they literally, their story is they played a local gig, and you guys are probably familiar with this. You're probably familiar with it. Their first local gig, they played in front of, I don't know, maybe 20 people, maybe less. 6 weeks later, their next gig, they played in front of 12,000 people.
Yeah.
How they did that? Well, apparently they did a video of a Taylor Swift song, made it metal. I haven't seen it. I just know the story. And it went viral in 6 weeks that they were invited to this thing. How that happened, I don't know. Everything I've read, there's no formula to it. Everybody says it's the luck of the draw. But then you'll also read, if you're reading between the lines at some people, it's all about how much money you throw at it and what they force you to then listen to. Just like we were forced to listen to that debauchery of Ozzy at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for these artists, we're often pushed, like you said, you've said it multiple times about Spotify, things that you would like to hear, you don't hear, and they push these things that you have no interest in. Well, that's 100%. Because somebody's paying for it.
That is 100%.
Right? The narrative is based on how much money you spent. But anyway, going back to the tribute band, if you're going to release songs from that original artist catalog, especially if that band is still active, releasing, touring, up for a Grammy, that gives it away right there. If you're coming out with original material, okay, I get it. But how come nobody's heard anything yet?
But still, Mick, even if you're releasing original material, you're way too close to the act that you're honoring. In this day of copyrights, trademarks, and intellectual property, in these bigger bands, whoever they may be, doesn't necessarily have to be heavy metal, but a lot of these bands have, even their artwork, even their, their logo, the font they use, it's all trademarked, right? Like, I mean, it's all under house. And then you have this other band that's going to come in and, make money off of something that, I mean, what are they going to have to make a deal to, to give that band a cut?
Well, it's possible. Listen, maybe there's a possibility of that, right? Who knows? I don't know. Maybe they got the blessing.
But then that makes even less sense to me. If you have to give a cut of the band that you're honoring, well, that's even less money in your pocket. It's hard to make money in this business. Obviously, we've talked about it.
Right. Well, how are you going to make money? Because if you're just doing covers of their songs, you don't own the publishing on them songs. You don't own the rights to the creation of something. So what are you making money on?
Right. Now, the money I do have, I got to give money to the band that I'm honoring. It's funny because, you and I on occasion have talked about, Disney World. You and I are big, Disney World people. And it's the same thing. Marvel is owned by Disney, but Universal Studios has, an entire park to Marvel characters. Well, Universal has to pay Disney for those rights. And then, there's things in that deal that Universal can't do. And, they have to stick closer to the original comics. They can't kind of touch on the newer versions of Disney's Marvel movies. Like, it's the same thing. Like, I'm trying to make money off of this property that I have, and now I have to pay my competition to even have this stuff in my park. So if this tribute band gets signed and they're doing originals and they're not making tons of money because, like you said, it's copyrights and all that stuff, now I have to give more money because now my logo looks like them and whatever else. Like, so then what? So you're literally making nothing at that point. You're certainly not going to be making the money that the band is making, the original band is making.
No. There's a percentage of tribute acts that are out there that are touring the nation. Some are actually touring the world, parts of the world, and their whole career is based on someone else's work. Everything.
Yeah. Everything. Yeah.
And that I don't understand how that works either. I mean, even Gallagher, when he gave rights to his brother to do Gallagher, he got a cut from it. So I don't understand. I mean, but this has been going on for years. Kiss tribute bands have been going on since the beginning of the time, right?
Yeah.
And, I mean, Gene Simmons even once said that he's allowed these people to make money off of the Kiss thing. right? But it's the look, it's the whatever. Some of them must sell merch. I'm assuming everybody sells merch. There's been a couple bands out there over the years. I mean, Strutter, they've been around forever. There's Alive 75. I mean, that's a full-blown production. I mean, like stage and, I mean, crazy stuff. But again, why now the tribute bands being signed? There's been Kiss tribute bands, Zeppelin tribute bands. They're not signed. I mean, Zeppelin hasn't released an album since what, 1980? So you would think that, well, maybe that makes a little bit more sense. But at the same time, I mean, is that just going to open up the floodgates for more artists to be cover bands? And then we're looking at, listen, cover bands have always been a thing, right? I mean, the Beatles did it. Tom Petty started out touring, or they just called it on the road working. Cover bands in this area were big throughout the 70s, early 80s. That flip didn't happen until like 85 when, you know, the interest of originals. But it's come full circle again. We're back to primarily covers, you know, except for the bigger name bands and all. So, again, I'll go back to earlier here. I get the AI record companies. Totally get it. It's just going to be another art form. As long as people know it, it's acknowledged that this is what it is, I'm okay with it. So there's a distinction. Not that it's a Dreads of Society type of thing where you think this is a real band and it really isn't because of what they're telling you or not telling you.
Right.
But the tribute thing, that's got me. Again, being an original artist, trying to be an original artist, and whatever that means, you know, it just adds, you know, another nail to the coffin and saying, like, well, like, where's that leave the rest of us? And like I said to you earlier, like, you want to go back to the Spotify, the streaming things, 0.04% of artists are even capable of making a living on streams alone.
Yeah.
And roughly, you're talking about, now depending on how this goes and things are structured and where the money's coming from, I gave you one number, but being a little bit more realistic on the low to the high end, you could be talking on an average between $40,000 to $65,000 a year. That's nothing to squawk about. And then the rest would be picked up in touring, merchandise, and, you know, meets and greets, and who knows what else. You could be over six figures. Hey, you know what? For any artist, especially at the indie level, that's amazing. But 0.04%? You got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. It's less than half of 1% of something else.
You know, and that's crazy to me because if you could go to Spotify and just, even if you're not a Spotify subscriber, if you go and just kind of scroll through, there are millions and millions of, every genre has millions and millions of bands or artists or whatever you know, entertainment, whatever you want to call them. It's unbelievable. And, you know, it's funny because I do know, and I think it's funny, kind of interesting, is Spotify pulled a lot of the comedy records that used to be on there, which I don't know if that's a thing. I don't know why. I don't know if there's a reason, but so there's not many comedy records on there of any artist, you know, or any comedian, I guess. So I don't know, man. It's amazing to me that percentage is, and I expect it to be. I never expected it to be super high, but it's amazing to me how unbelievably low that is.
Well, you're talking, to make that kind of money, that means at least every 2 weeks you have to have 1 million streams.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
The competition right now of, and this number's not completely accurate because it's changing all the time, you're talking about 1 million new uploads a month.
Yeah.
So that's 12 million uploads of songs, material, music, sounds, noise, whatever, a year. In 5 years, 10 years, I mean, what are you talking about? Like, that's new stuff on top of everything else that's there. What kind of database is that? What do you think you're going to find sitting in 12 million? And then compound that, 120 million in 10 years, plus everything that came before it, and so on and so forth. What do you think you're going to find? You definitely have a better shot at finding that needle in a haystack.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. For sure.
It's definitely crazy times. Floodgates have opened for anything and everything. But then at the same time, when your independent indie, in the trench artists do something, it's balked at. Oh, you shouldn't be doing that. That's not how you do it. This is the way we do it. And a lot of the times, most people, boutique labels included, they're usually 5 years behind the mark anyway.
Yeah. Amazing, man. It's just amazing to me how this is going.
Yeah. Hey, listen, let's go back to when you have major artists, ones that are signed, playing with big name acts that are touring right now with their own tribute versions of bands. You know the industry is falling apart. That's coming from the inside. That's a red flag.
Yeah.
I can name 2 or 3 artists, major artists in the metal community that are currently doing that. And they're doing well at it. They're doing well.
Yep.
But what's that saying? The 2 that I'm thinking right off the top of my head, both of them have an original band that's done real well.
Yep.
And still, they're finding more of an outlet, more of a living, more of an opportunity to go out on the road. The one act, Sirius XM, is playing their cover songs.
Yeah. Yep.
It's crazy.
Super crazy, dude. You had mentioned Sirius XM. You know, the thing with that is also you realize that they're pushing certain acts.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when I first got XM, it was the Liquid Metal station, and I had XM. I wasn't a Sirius guy. But the metal station, that Liquid Metal station or whatever it was, I don't even remember if that was the name of it back then, but, you know, they were playing everything. There was a good possibility you could get your stuff on there. Now? No. It literally, again, just like Spotify, you could tell that they're pushing certain things, especially that guy, Jose Mang, whatever his name is. He is just to me, he's just a fraud, but whatever. I don't want to get super negative, but you could tell that even when he's on, he's pushing, he has an agenda.
Yeah.
Whether he's given that agenda or he has enough power to have his own agenda, you could tell that the stuff that station plays on an average is just stuff that they're trying to push.
Oh, yeah. I don't even listen to it anymore. But
I stopped.
It's so unbelievably mainstreamed, and it's all cookie cutter stuff.
Yeah.
And again, this may be 2 old guys complaining that, you know, back in my day, kids on my lawn routine. But it really is. If you guys would really listen to it, it's cookie cutter stuff, which a lot of music is. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
You know, everybody follows a format. Genesis sang about it long ago. There's a format that we follow.
It just wasn't, you know, originally it wasn't supposed to be like that.
No.
And that's what bothers me the most.
Even though it's commercial free, it really isn't.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is, hey, what we'll do is we're just going to keep throwing this down their throat so that people are forced to buy, or they're tunneled into or funneled into a specific pattern, a specific belief. You know what happens? It's the mermaid effect. Over time, hey, this sounds great, man. Yeah.
Yep.
You know, and one morning you wake up and you go, what am I doing? You know what I mean? What am I doing? Which is nothing new. The industry has always done this, right? There's the story of Styx. They had the song played every night at a certain time because they fed the DJ cocaine and some other stuff. I get it.
Right.
The story of Casablanca, they did the same thing. They got, you know, they kept pushing.
Oh, yeah.
Normal stuff, right? That's how you get your product on the shelf. Totally get it. But a lot of these bands back in the day, what was the turning point for them is they just kept pressing in the live setting. Kiss, they just kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. Yeah, they had some trickery when a live one came out, but it's all show business anyway. So when people go, oh my God, I can't believe they did that, they all did it. Everybody did it. I don't care who you are.
Everybody did it.
It's a competitive market. Are you telling me if you were a runner in the Olympics, you're not going to buy decent shoes?
Right.
Them sandals will do. Well, if you're that good, fantastic, baby. I get it. And there's always that one guy, right? Shoes, I don't need shoes. But you want to have what's going to give you the best edge with the greatest performance. Am I right? Am I right?
So,
I'm right.
You're right. 100% right.
So, good luck to everybody. Maybe I should go back and listen to that jealousy episode. I'm not sure. All right, so the topic of this show is, are bands and artists delusional? Are bands and artists delusional? I know my answer, but it'll be a real short show. What do you think, buddy? Are we delusional?
I think that, you know, we talked about this previously, which we normally do, talk about what we're going to tackle. And I was thinking about it, and, instantly I want to go, oh my God, yeah. But I think back to, the first show we did about success and what success means. And, we all have our own version of success, and what your success may be for your band or your music isn't the same as mine. Are bands and artists delusional? I don't want to say that we're delusional. Is there artists and bands out there that are delusional? Yeah. But in the same vein, are they delusional, or are they just positive and confident in what they're doing? So we can look at it two ways, right? Like, we can look at it with our own egos and go, oh yeah, this band or artist, they're delusional. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're doing. But then if you step back and you go, there's nothing really wrong with being confident about what you do and thinking that you're doing the right. Look, we're all going to make mistakes, right? Like, not everything is going to work. We've been down this road a million times. But to go, what I'm doing is right, what the music I play, the music I write, like, it's awesome and it's better than this. And there is a fine line between ego and delusion and that sort of thing. But I think we're all delusional in our own way. But I think it might be, some of it may be driven by ego. Some of it may be driven by wanting the best for your art and in thinking positive and moving forward and battling these wars that we have to get your music heard. And there are definitely some bands are delusional. There are, it's funny. I was just talking to a friend of mine pretty recently, and he was telling me about this show that's about to happen at the time of recording this. And he was telling me that all the bands on the bill are trying to make it this huge production, and it's in this small little club. And my buddy was like, I don't understand. Like, I even told these bands, like, this is the club we're playing. I'm not sure where you think you guys are playing. Is that delusional? Sure. But is that wrong to want to do your entire show or have all these dreams of grandeur? I don't know. Like, I kind of think it's okay to be that way. You and I talk about Kiss a lot, and, look at what they've done. These guys are 4 guys from New York, and they put makeup on, and they had this vision of being the biggest and greatest band in the world, and, well, kind of happened. Van Halen, they were a cover band at one time, and with these visions of being successful and being a huge band. And guess what? They were. I'm sure Taylor Swift, to bring it to 2024, I'm sure she had visions also. When she was a young kid, she wanted to be this mega star when it came to writing and being this person that represents a portion of the world, empowering young girls. And so I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess they're delusional if they think that they're going to put on a Kiss-sized production in a small club. But I understand the thought process of it, because this big production is part of what you do. So is it being delusional? I don't know. I can't really come up with an answer, because a part of me goes, I understand it. I understand wanting to do the entire show and the best show you could put on. So when people leave there, they go, holy cow, that was amazing. I can't believe they pulled that show off in this little club. But then the old guy in me goes, yeah, bro, like, don't even bother. Like, it's cool. I get it. But you're putting way too much work in for what the show is. I don't know, man. Yes, there are artists and bands that are delusional. Absolutely. But is it wrong? I guess it depends on how you're acting upon it. If you're walking around with this huge ego and thinking you're the greatest thing ever, then yeah, you are delusional and you are wrong, because there's always somebody better than you, and there's going to be opportunities that are given to other people. But if you're doing it because you feel confident about what you do and you are 100% behind your music and your talents and the people that you're with, then I don't think that's a delusional thing. I think it's okay to be a little confident in what you're doing and what you're bringing to the table. What do you think?
Well, I definitely think that we're all delusional, like you said. I mean, and I'm not making a joke of it. I really do. You don't do this for 40 years unless there's some delusion going on. Because,
right.
Again, like we talked about, insanity is often defined as doing something over and over again and getting the same result but expecting something different, right? And oftentimes, if you've been doing this quite a long time, a lot of times the result is exactly the same. You have this hope, you're trying something different. So I think there is some delusion that happens. This, personally, when I put this on the list for a possible show idea, this is something that I've been searching myself for the past couple years. I've been saying, am I delusional? Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe my music is terrible. I'm this and that. And then I go through a comparison. Well, here's the pros, here's the cons. This is what I've been told. I've never heard this. I've heard this, or, whatever the case may be. I go through this process because it's a self-reflection thing. However, on the other side, there's a bit of, like you were saying, I think that an artist has to have some type of confidence, not cockiness, though that may sometimes play a little bit into what we do. A level of confidence that can come across as cockiness, but that confidence has you delivering time and time again. That doesn't mean that things are always 100%. Or that things are always working out, but the way you go about it is still up of a standard. And we've talked about that. Remember the one episode we talked about, I don't know if it was last season or it was the season before, we talked about maybe lowering some of our expectations, especially with this new industry, but don't lower your standards. So I think that if you come across as confident, then it's not necessarily delusional because you know what you can do, we know what you can't do. Which then leads me to, there are bands that are delusional 100% that don't possess any of those skills because they have no idea, one, what they're doing. And listen, the truth is, you don't know what you don't know until you learn that you know it, right?
Right.
I get that. But there are bands that have been around for quite a long time that are way delusional. They may have had one good show in their whole career, and they're basing everything else on that. I've played hole-in-the-wall venues. They're called dive bars, crap holes, whatever you want. My living room has been bigger than some of these venues. And I've played with bands that have come in as if they were playing the Spectrum and it was 1987.
Right.
In terms of gigantic set, quad double stacks, 6 guitars, violins, keyboards, you name it. For a 30-minute set that they wound up cutting into and only did a 20-minute set because of the setup time.
Right.
That, to me, is a delusion. I'm not sure. That's not reading the room, not understanding where you are, like in Rocky V, when Adrian's giving Rocky a hard time from getting hit in the head. He goes, I know exactly where I'm at. I can smell it. I can see it. I can hear it. I know exactly where I'm at. But he's coming from a place that, hey, I achieved this. This is what I have achieved. Not too long ago. Why isn't it possible again? That's a different type of delusion. That's based on experience and a certain amount of reality. Unfortunately, some people are never able to repeat it, and we see that in this industry all the time. Sports heroes, they come back, and they just never have the same spark that they once had.
Yeah.
Totally get that. But guys that are completely oblivious, there's a heavy amount of delusion that goes on.
You are listening to the Cosmick Voice with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels.
I did a tour earlier this year. Not going to say where because I don't want to give anything away to any particular person. We played a festival. We were kind of like the new kid on the block for that festival. And to the area, we're talking to this cat, and he goes on, he's selling himself to us. And I don't understand why people have to do that. I don't bother doing it. Hey, man, if you're that interested, check us out online. If not, just wait till we play our set. We'll do our thing. I mean, and that's it. I'm not here to do all that stuff. Can we just talk about, like, hey, do you like the food? Or, hey, what about that traffic? Or, something like that. I'm not interested in talking that kind of thing, right? The swinging D word and all that. But anyway, the guy goes on to tell us about his band CD and that he spent $60,000 on it. I shuddered and I kind of fell back, upchucked in my mouth and back down. The whole band, I was like, oh my God, what are you, nuts? And that he paid some producer who was part of some band. My other band members knew exactly who that person and band was. Me being oblivious, I had no idea. I'm like, okay, first of all, I wouldn't pay $60,000 for anything if I didn't have to. Anyhow, so he goes through all this thing and how excited it is, and he goes, we spent so much money on this that we didn't have any money to get duplications. Like, we didn't have it. And I'm looking at him like...
Shocking.
Like, what? So they just burned some and wrote markers on it, and he gave me one. And I'm saying, well, that's your problem right there. We actually listened to the CD. Sonically, it was good. Musically, like in terms of the songs, like, it was okay. For all that kind of money, and you're paying a high-end producer to give you this thing, it was just boring cookie-cutter stuff. Anyway, my point is some people think if they put a price tag on it, here's the delusion. Oh, I spent $60,000. People have commented over the years. I remember I had a guy in and we were doing some demoing, and he goes, well, I'm going to do this in a real studio. Like, it was a subtle slap to the head, because I have, what's now considered, a bedroom studio. It's a in-the-box type of thing, which, a lot of places now are. This was early on when it still wasn't as vogue as it is right now. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, what are you talking about, man? Like, But people have that in their head, so there's some delusion. And that I spend all this, it's going to happen. Well, it doesn't happen like that. So much, though, that you didn't plan out to actually make duplications. Like, you couldn't take $300 to the side. Like, that really made a difference. Yeah. And then the fact that you're just giving them away, how do you ever expect to make anything?
Right.
Even in it's the slight, like, if you give it away, there's no value. That's the problem the music industry, and I'm going to divert here. That's the problem the music industry got into a long time ago. And a lot of this started when 9 Inch Nails started giving away stuff because they could. Yeah. They had a fan base. You have to give something to get something in return. I give you this, then you'll buy this. That don't happen anymore, man. People want free. You give it away, why would anybody buy it? Hence, what happens with Spotify. They have all these subscribers. Do you think them subscribers, they can get my CDs, my albums right there, right then and there? Do you think that they need to buy it again? They already paid for it. And they paid very little for it. So little that I almost don't get anything at all. I know you're a subscriber. I'm not.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Just say, today, 25 albums have released. You now have all 25 of those albums.
Yeah.
Chances are, all 25 of those albums you will not listen to.
That is 100%.
Right. So, but you paid for them as part of a subscription, but because you don't stream them, that artist will get no cut.
That's right. That's right.
Why would they buy it again?
Right.
If you did listen to it and you didn't like it, you're definitely not buying it on CD, vinyl, cassette, 8-track, none of it.
Yeah.
So do you see what I'm saying? You're already getting it for Amazon Prime. You're an Amazon Prime member. I don't know, what is it? It's about $100 a year.
I think it's a little more.
Yeah, it's a little more now. Yeah,
it's 100 and something.
But you get their library of music to listen to for free. Why would you buy albums? Yep. Think about it.
No,
and do you listen to all those albums? Do you listen to all them artists? Absolutely not. That's a freebie, in a sense, given to you because you're paying for their overpriced shipping and their ability to return your product or get a new product. That's what they are. They could care less about the music. That's an add-on.
Yeah.
Even the streaming service for the movies. You only get so much of it until you pay the extra bit to get the real movies.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Do I think that artists are delusional? I think, to a certain degree. And again, I go back to saying that we're all delusional because we're all shooting for something that only a small percentage of people ever achieve.
Yeah.
Like you said, we can define success any way we want. And that's 100% true. Whether someone else agrees with that or not, it doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, you're paying your own bills. You're making your own waves. But I think in this business, some realism has to be maintained so that you understand what's going on. This way, one, you don't get caught into, I spent $60,000 on an album that doesn't go anywhere, and I don't even have a finished product per se, a packaged finished product. I got a bunch of burned CDRs with a marker written on it that I'm giving away at every show that I'm at with a story, thinking that the story itself will be the thing that propels them to somewhere. And this is not the first time I've heard this story. I've played with bands over the years that have spent... I talked to another band, $75,000 they paid to have it done, and the producer, who was the bass player in Disturbed. They went nowhere. And again, was the album that much better? I don't know. And then somebody would say to me, well, they did it. They took a shot at it. It's better than your stuff. Well, maybe it is. But guess what? I'm not out $75,000. I've been able to tour, go overseas, shoot across the country, play some pretty good shows, put a little bit in the bank, get new merchandise, and I'm still playing 15 years later in this band. Where these other bands, you spend $75,000 and it goes nowhere. How long do you think that band's going to last?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Listen, I'm not a mathematician like you. You know what I mean? I don't have them smarts. I'm not a big-time star like you.
It's true, bro. That kind of stuff, that's a part of that whole thing of, delusion. That's part that I never understood. That part of it, I don't understand. I understand the thinking and why you would want to, and I understand the other end of it, but at the end of the day, you're right. It doesn't make sense to me.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Because again, I'll go back to saying, we talked about this in so many episodes through the seasons. Like, if you're going to pay to be on a tour, I don't fault anybody about that. It's not something I'm really interested in. We've been approached with stuff, and I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that. It's crazy. It's just craziness. If I'm going to spend that kind of money, I'm going to do it myself. Because then we'll reap any reward that does come in.
Yep.
No matter how big or small. You pay getting on a tour, you're already paying somebody else's bill.
Yeah.
And it's that much harder because now you have to make that up plus what you're spending to be on tour.
Yeah.
When you could just put that money into something else. Listen, 60 grand. I remember we're driving back from that show to our next gig. We had hours in the vehicle and we played it and we're all discussing it, my band. And I said, hey, listen, the music's the music. I get it. Listen, this is what they do. Totally, whatever. Not my cup of tea. I don't see it. And apparently it hasn't done anything. Otherwise, the guy still wouldn't be handing them out on CDRs with marker on it. Yep. But I said, if I had the opportunity to have 60 grand to do something with the band, okay, what I would do would be completely different. And I would still have money left over. I know this is an expensive business. Hands down. But like you have talked about before, like, you're taking that DIY approach this year, which I think is I've always been that way. I think it's huge. You can align yourself with different partnerships and labels and stuff, but it's still, at the end of the day, it's still do it yourself. It's still do it yourself. I could have recorded that for a lot less. I've heard great albums done for fractions of the cost. In today's world, you don't need to do that. No. And you don't need to lose your shirt. Because, again, statistically, they're saying that what most people are listening to online, digitally, on their phone, the quality is terrible. So what difference does it make?
Yep.
There's producers that have, earlier this year, the end of last year, they had gone on record saying, what's the use of producing albums now? Nobody listens to them. We don't have to go the extra mile. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're thin, that everybody's listening on the MP3s, just this crappy sound, whatever. I shouldn't say anybody, but a small percentage of people aren't necessarily listening on their stereos. Cars don't even come with CD players anymore.
CD players, yeah.
Laptops don't have DVDs and CD capability anymore. Now you got to go buy an extension. It's just another piece that you got to buy. It just doesn't make sense. So your money could be spent elsewhere, and I think that's where some of the delusion happens. There's just delusion in everything. There really is. Like a guy does one show, and all of a sudden they think that they're Metallica. It takes a little bit more than that. That's that big fish in little pond mentality.
It is, yeah, you're right. Like you had said, really, you wrapped it up in a nice little bundle. I mean, we're all delusional in what we do. We all have some kind of delusion, because if we didn't, I don't know if we'd still be continuing doing this.
Well, that's exactly it, right? It's kind of like running around in your pajamas all day and night. And some of that delusion that we experience to keep us going is part of the passion. We're chasing a dream. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm chasing a dream. You're chasing a dream. We're all chasing. If you're listening to this podcast, you've probably been chasing a dream. And there's nothing wrong with that. That keeps you alive. It keeps you engaged. But know the realities, I think. Know the pitfalls, because a lot of times that delusion, if you're unaware and can't read the room, when it hits you, it hits so hard, you're lost. And it may knock you out for the count. And you don't need that. It's just a little bit of due diligence with a sprinkle or two of delusion. Nothing wrong with it. And again, when you're up on stage, you do your thing. That's your 30, 40 minutes, so you could be as delusional as you want, baby.
Yep.
As delusional, because you can sell it then. But when you get back to the merch table, when you get back to networking, when you get back to balancing your checkbook, you can't be delusional. You just can't be. There's a story, not to prolong things, but Doug Marks, he does the Metal Method. He had that band Hawk in the 80s. A lot of big-time players came out of Hawk. Scott Travis, for one, who's with Judas Priest.
Yeah.
Anyway, on and so forth. He invested like $80,000 into the band. He didn't get anything back. So much so that he left his own band. So much so he left his own band because he realized, if I'm not getting anything back of this, I can take my money someplace else, put my efforts into whatever, and go at it from there. He made that decision that I am not willing to make that sacrifice of losing that kind of money with no possibility of getting it back in return. So he went with a more safe bet. Still in the music business, just took it a different way and has been successful since then. Doesn't regret his change either. But my point is how many guys do this over and over and over again and have gone nowhere? Not even an inkling of. They're still trapped in their basement. Well, that may be me. I'm still in my basement. What do you think, bud?
No, man, I think you said it perfectly.
All right, if you like that episode, check out some of our other episodes at www.thecosmickvoice.com. Step into the Cosmickverse and fill that void. Thanks so much for listening. This is the Cosmick Voice. If you have a question, a topic idea, or something you want us to address, just contact us through our Facebook page at The Cosmick Voice. You can listen to The Cosmick Voice at Spotify, Breaker, Apple, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, and at thecosmicview.com. Check us out on Facebook at The Cosmick Voice.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode. And for that, Mick and I would like to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And we hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future episodes of The Cosmick Voice. And you can get in touch with us through thecosmickvoice.com and, of course, all of the Cosmick Voice social medias. Take care and be safe.
You're listening to The Cosmick Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business.